Got this big ass water bottle the other day, so stay hydrated, folks. So, if you're watching this, you probably are running an agency or looking at starting your first agency. And you're probably also curious about how to leverage AI appointment setters and appointment booking bots in a way that's actually effective and gets your clients the best results. Now, I think this goes without saying, but getting clients fantastic results is the crux of a good business, right? A lot of people have run in the past what we call a churn and burn agency, where you offer a service, but your service isn't very good. So your whole job is just getting new clients and trying to keep old clients from refunding. And that is a nightmare of a business to run. But if you've had any experience with building out AI agents and sort of getting the groundwork of them, you probably have run into an issue, which is that it can be a little bit tricky to make them consistent and actually control how they converse with a potential client. And so I'm going to run you guys through why our agents are so effective and so consistent, and then how you can build out your agents on your own to make sure that they do the same thing. Now, to make this easy to follow along with, I'm going to be like drawing on my iPad just to kind of break everything down for you. But obviously, this applies across any sort of platform you're using for your AI agents. And at the end, I will show you what I use and how you can start using the same exact software stack I am, which has allowed us to scale our agencies in every single market we've entered extremely, extremely quickly. But without further ado, let's dive in. So to start, let me just go ahead and break down a little bit about like how AI brains actually work, because I think a lot of people have misconceptions around that, and this is going to help you understand why we structure our agents in the way we do, using milestone nodes and being able to basically have key goals that they hit so that they actually stay consistent. So if we look here, this is my little drawing on my iPad. The way an AI works is you have a prompt. So this is the input, right? And it's generally going to be in like a sort of paragraph format here. And then that's all grouped together, and that enters the AI brain. And I know it looks like a pair of lungs. This is my best representation of a brain. So then what it goes through is a cycle of finding the most realistically accurate outputs it can think of. Now, this is one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. AI doesn't really like think in the same way we do, right? Where we actually like process information, analyze and everything. It goes off of likelihood of outputs. Now, more advanced models can do more basic reasoning, but it's kind of weird because that's why AI will hallucinate, right? It'll just say what it thinks it should say as opposed to sometimes properly thinking through everything. And then, based on what it comes up in this sort of thinking phase, it then outputs an output, and those outputs often look somewhat similar to the input in the form that it's a longer one block type of message. So now you probably have a pretty good foundational understanding of how the AI takes information, organizes it, and then spits something out. What we need with our software is basically a way to break everything up so it's able to follow a consistent conversational flow. So the main issue that we're going to run into is the AI going off the rails if a conversation goes down a sideways path. And so the way that we fix that is by getting these milestone nodes in place. Right. So, for example, our first goal is just to find the name of the person. Confirm we have XYZ name. This is their number, right? That's its first goal. Now, the cool thing is if it's like, hey, is this XYZ name? Just want to confirm I had the right number. And they say it throughout a totally random response. Well, if you're using traditional AI like softwares for AI agents, it's going to go and respond to that and move away from the first step of the prompt. With ours, because it's a milestone, it stays here. It doesn't pass until it's answered this. So if they throw out something like, who the heck are you? The AI is going to be like, oh, sorry, it's XYZ with XYZ company. Just wanted to confirm, do I have the right number here? And it's going to stay on that milestone until it either gets a yes, we have the right person, or no, we don't. And then that means that our conversation can't go that many directions. If they refuse to answer, it's not going to continue, right? But it's going to continue to ask until they respond. And so that leaves us with a situation where they can say either no, this is not, you have the wrong number, or yes, it is, right? And based on that, we can send it in two directions. So I'm going to show you what this actually looks like within the software. So here you can actually see an example of what our agents will look like when everything's built out. So this is like a simple workflow. Now, if you're looking at this, you're probably thinking, well, it doesn't look that complicated. We have different agents for different sections. And so I'll actually show you here, right? We have conversational nodes, we have milestone nodes, and then we have specific message nodes. And then there's obviously all these other tools that we can pull from, right? And by the way, just so you can see, like, it's very robust. We have a bunch of different options we can message from: WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger, web chat, email, iMessage, and then phone. But I'm just going to use iMessage here. But you'll notice how these actually work together, right? We have our initial confirm the name, and then we've got our yes or no, right? And so it only has two routes it can go. Otherwise, it will stay on this milestone and continue to try and fulfill it. And so our next step here, you might be thinking, well, what if they say no? Is we're going to then push again to see if they're interested in the product or service. On the flip side, if they are interested, we continue along the main flow of the conversation, right? But you can see how everything interconnects because we're pushing towards getting this final booking, but we have, multiple branches. The reason this is so valuable, by the way, is it's the perfect in between with automations where they'd have to give a very specific response, either a YES with a capital Y or a no, or if it's going to respond with a, super off the cuff AI response that's completely original and sort of unexpected. So another point I want to mention is you want to make sure you don't what we call over engineer these agents. So I want you to notice that I actually have quite a simple workflow here. And the reason is you're going to change how robust the agent is based on its number one goal. And so this one's goal is to just set an appointment from someone who's already kind of raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested in getting a roof inspection. So notice there are actually only four main steps, which are going to be verify with the right person, right? Understand why they want like the service, and then offer to send out a team, and then book. And what a lot of people will end up doing, and it's tricky if you're using like something strictly like N8N to build these agents, it gets super complicated. What people will do is they over engineer them where they have, a bunch of different sections for every single aspect of the conversation. The issue is a couple things. So one is the more segments the AI has, the more variables the more variables there are going to be in the way it responds, right? Because you do have to keep in mind it's not just an automation where it has these set workflows, right? The AI does still think. Um, but it also gives it more areas to break, right? Where if they say a certain response, the AI might basically be like, I don't know what the answer is to this, and then just not go in any direction. And so what we do is we try and simplify it into the main sections of the conversation, but you'll notice that I still let the AI actually like process and do its job, right? For example, if they express uncertainty or anything other than hard no, I want to figure out why, handle the objection, and go back for the appointment again, right? I'd rather objection handling happen within one milestone node instead of having to have three different milestones for a single objection. So hopefully that makes sense, but you want to keep your agents as simple as possible. This is one of the reasons our agents perform really well. It also has to do with something in texting called segments, which is basically the set amount of characters a message can have. By having these simpler agents, we're sending less segments overall. And for our clients that do really large volume, we spend much less on actual, paying the carriers for each text sent out. The flow from getting a lead to booking it is a lot quicker, right? Now, I'm not saying that having long back and forth conversations isn't valuable. We actually have agents designed, and that's where more like the conversational node is super valuable. But when you're working for a specific goal, you want to make it as direct as possible to limit the amount of drop off that happens in a super long conversation or the AI just going a little bit more sideways. Now, another few points that I really want to emphasize is there's some things that you want your AI to have context on that you want it to be able to pull from. So, for example, why the conversation is happening. And this is just very basic because this isn't a test sub account. So, for our actual ones, it's much more robust based on where we're marketing, who we're marketing to, all that jazz. But what we're basically doing here is we have why the conversation is happening. So, if anything basically falls outside of my relatively simple instructions within each actual milestone node, the agent is going to be able to pull from here and contextualize based on why the conversation is happening. What's the best response to do here? Just like a normal salesperson would, if they don't know an exact answer, they can kind of handle it and work around it. The AI will be able to do that here as well. Now, there's sections like more advanced reasoning that we have because our platform's super built out. This is less important. I actually will often leave it blank, but for those super advanced convos where you're talking to a sophisticated buyer or something, this is super, super helpful. Now, another few things that are great to have. So, agent voice, being able to match the voice to how someone is messaging, right? Another telltale sign of an AI is it responds the same way every single time, no matter how you're messaging, right? So if someone's slightly more dry, you want your responses to be shorter. If it's sending paragraphs and they're texting back one or two bubbles, right? It's not really an even conversation, and this person's much more likely to sort of drop off. And so we want to be able to give our agent its base characteristics, but we also want to basically be able to have it match how they're messaging and basically communicate in tandem with how the prospect is actually talking. Now, another one is intentional typos, right? So we have a 3% typo rate. This is what I would recommend you use. Essentially, we want small little things that make it look more human by having it make intentional errors. So, and it'll also favor doing errors that are not like super weird to look at. So we won't get like a big capital letter M in the middle of a short text, right? But it might use a lowercase where it should use an uppercase, not use a period, things like that. These little intentional mess ups are perfect. Now, recommended is around 5%. I use 3% here. That's actually the golden ratio I found. So maybe tweak this in the future. But that's like the golden ratio where I see it doesn't make it seem like it's an idiot that's texting or like you have a drunk person at work, but it does seem way more human than just like every single message having perfect punctuation, all of that. Another thing, so with a lot of N8N agents, what ends up happening is it will respond. So someone will send like three messages in response, right? And so the AI will start responding to the first message. This person sends their second message. Then, so it's message, message, response to first message, another message, response to second message. And you see why that seems super like not human, right? It's not waiting for them to finish their thought. And it's responding to these things all over the place. So we intentionally will add a message delay so that it doesn't instantly respond. So it'll wait at least 25 seconds from the last message it received before it will send its message. And this means that if someone's, typing, right, we're not going to have this situation where the AI responds and then they send a whole paragraph and the AI is just like, starts like tripping out over itself. So intentional delays are super helpful. And then a character limit. This is relatively simple. Instead of responding in big paragraph blocks, it'll have to break it up. So it'll segment how much it can put into actually each bubble, as you can see here. Now, work schedule, this is less relevant. This is basically where it doesn't respond during certain hours. But another thing that I think is super important to have in your agents, especially if you want to get the best possible results for your clients, is a follow-up sequence. So what'll happen is if a message drops, like a conversation drops off, we basically want to have follow-ups in place to be able to pick up the conversation and try and re-grab that person's attention basically if they free up. And so what we do is we have a couple of different follow-up modes. Infinite means that it'll continue to sequence through and just restart and until basically that person either says screw off or stops messaging. But you can set up the cadence in which it does it, and I recommend this should actually be an hour. So 1 hour, 1 day, 2 days, and 3 days. That's my favorite sort of follow-up sequence. You can also have it restart on Ghost. That's super helpful. Things like this are going to add so much more sort of relatability, and your AI agent make it come across so much more human than it otherwise would if it's just sending out these big closebot style boxes. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful. And there you go. That's everything you need to be able to create some A plus AI agents. One problem I get brought to me a lot is, David, I use N8N and I have no clue how to integrate all of these little things that are relatively small, but when put together, really add up. And that's actually a very valid question to have because N8N works by syncing a bunch of different platforms, but it's kind of like trying to go through a conversation where you forget the last thing you said every single time. It's very disjointed, and because the way N8N is built, it's not designed specifically just for this, and so it becomes super tricky to get certain prompting into the AI for every single response. And so I have a really cool offer for you guys. If you are interested in basically being able to set up and use this software for yourself, the exact same software I use for our biggest clients that gets fantastic results in literally every industry we go into, there's a calendar below. You can click on that and schedule in a time to speak with me, and I will go through with you, figure out exactly how we could replace your current software stack or get you set up on this, and also how we can get you a deal below the normal market pricing, because the founder and creator of the software is a good friend of mine. I actually manage his entire sales team and acquisition side of his business, and so I will be able to get you an ultra special deal if you come through me. So if that sounds interesting, go ahead and click the link below, schedule on. I would love to talk with you. Other than that, I'm going to link a video here so you can see a little bit more about what I do if you're curious, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.